Hi friends, welcome to Stay Stitching. My name is Carla and I'm glad you're here. So a month or two ago I talked a little bit about the machine that's behind me. I don't even know if it's in frame, I doubt it. But I talked a little bit about my Singer 127, which is my oldest sewing machine. And there were a lot of people interested in that. And people said that they had a machine like that was their grandmother's, or maybe they had a vintage machine in their life and they weren't sure how to do it, or maybe they were interested in vintage sewing machines. And so I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about how to get into vintage sewing machines and what I recommend. The first thing I recommend is, if you're interested in vintage sewing machines, that you join the Facebook group Vintage Sewing Machines. There's more knowledge about vintage sewing machines on that Facebook group combined than probably anywhere else in the world. And they're really good about answering questions. I've sent videos of machine problems, I've sent pictures, I've just asked plain questions. And so pretty much everything I'm going to tell you today, and almost everything that I know about vintage sewing machines, I learned from that Facebook group. I do some reading, but that is a great way to learn. So what I'm going to tell you today is what to do when you get a vintage sewing machine home. I'm going to talk a little bit about what you should buy maybe and look for, and then what to do once you get it home. Now today's beautiful model is a Singer 201. This is considered the Rolls-Royce of straight stitchers. This machine is what they used in the Rolls-Royce factory to sew all the upholstery. And it's considered by many collectors to be the finest straight stitch machine ever made. I have three of the three probably best straight stitch machines ever made. And I will introduce them to you over time. Now, the first thing I would say, if you don't already own a vintage sewing machine and you want to buy one, is don't pay a lot for them. I think the most I have paid for a vintage sewing machine is $50. Now, when I buy a machine that is worth putting some parts into, like I just bought a machine a couple of weeks ago, and I knew it was missing its bobbin case, and this bobbin case is very expensive at $60. So I paid $40 for the machine and $60 for the bobbin case and $2 for a new bobbin winding tire. And so I have $102 into that machine, and it's well worth it because it's in my favorite cabinet, and I'll show it to you sometime. But this machine, I had been wanting a 201 for a year or two, and I don't get in a hurry with my vintage sewing machines. I figure if when the time is right, it's going to show up. There's no sense in marching out there and buying a bunch of things that aren't going to suit your needs. Just look. Look on Facebook Marketplace. Look on Craigslist. Look at your local thrift stores. Go to garage sales. You can buy them on eBay. So there's a lot of places to look for vintage sewing machines, and you do not need to rush. This machine commonly goes for up to $200. I paid $35 for this machine. I saw the listing and I could see that it was a 201, and it looked like it was in decent shape. It was in Fort Collins. My sister-in-law and her husband and kid live in Fort Collins. So I called Shani up and I said, Shani, would you be willing to go pick up a sewing machine for me? And she's the greatest sister-in-law, and you know, she said sure. And so she went and picked it up. She said that it was just a few college students that had it, and they had no idea what it was or what it was worth. And so she gave them the money, and then the next time we met for a family thing, they brought it to me, and I, you know, paid her and took it home. Well, it sat here for about a year because I wasn't in the place to work on it, and I was doing other things with other machines. But I recently, I knew she ran. I had plugged her in and she ran, and I knew she had all of her parts. So I had determined that much. But about a week ago, I opened her up and I did all of the cleaning and the oiling and all of that stuff, and I filmed the whole thing. But a lot of what is in that video is this. Because as you guys know, I'm the furthest thing from an expert at filming. I'm learning and trying to do better and better. But definitely the furthest thing from an expert. And you're going to see, you know, the side of my face or my head a lot in this video probably. I will try not to turn my back on you. All of the work on this machine is already done. So here's what I will tell you if you are shopping. I'm assuming that anyone who watches my channel is already a seamstress. They know how to sew. Don't buy a machine that's broken. It's just going to be a pain. Until you know how to fix machines, make sure that it has everything. Number one, always check for the bobbin case. Depending on the machine, that can be a pain to replace. Other machines, it's so easy. It's got a standard bobbin case, and you can pick one up for 10 bucks. But I still wouldn't buy a machine without a bobbin case unless I knew for certain that, you know, I could get the bobbin case. Don't buy a machine without a foot pedal. Don't buy a machine without a cord. Make sure that it has all of its part. Is its bobbin winding apparatus working? Does the wheel spin freely? Now, I am experienced enough to fix that sort of thing. But my husband and I have spent hours and hours and hours on these machines. And I'm not saying don't spend hours and hours and hours. I'm saying for your first vintage machine, unless it's a family heirloom and you already own it, I'm saying don't buy a broken machine. Make sure that the tensioner is all there. And you may not know what it looks like, but does it look complete? Does it have an end on it? Does it look like, you know, a working thing? And, you know, if you are at a place where you can plug it in, make sure the light works. Now, that's not a deal breaker because it could just need a new bulb. But to the best of your ability, don't buy a broken machine. So, what do I do after I get a machine home? The first thing I do is I get out my vacuum cleaner and I vacuum the whole thing. And I lift her up. I'll show you how to do that later. But if you have a sewing machine in a table, then you know that they lift up to get to the underneath part. I vacuum the whole machine, and this machine was filthy, really filthy. And I vacuum in the drawers. I get underneath and I vacuum. I do this for two reasons. The main reason, spiders. You don't want to be bringing a bunch of spiders in your house. You don't want to be sewing along and have a spider crawl out from your new sewing machine. So just, you know, give it a good vacuum. The second reason, obviously, they're dirty and they're dusty. And why not vacuum as much of that dust up as you can before you start brushing it away and it gets all in your house and, you know, on your upholstery and whatnot. So I vacuum as much as I can. This machine was really filthy, it was really linty, it was really dusty, and it was a little bit sticky. So a lot of the dirt was kind of stuck to it, but I still did vacuum, and I still got, you know, probably more than 50% of the debris off. So then what do I do next? I have a series of brushes. I have this whisk brush, and I just go through and I just brush. And I've already done this for this machine. This machine's relatively clean. And I brush everything out with a whisk brush that I can see. Next, I go down to a smaller brush. This is just a paint brush. And I get into the smaller crevices and underneath. I get everything with this. These have finer bristles than this. And I do that. After that, I go in with my retired Mary Kay makeup brushes, and I get in there and I brush around. They're very light, they're very fluffy. I think they're squirrel. They're very fine. They aren't going to damage any parts. You can get into your tensioner. You can get into here. This faceplate comes off fairly easily. You can get down underneath there. You can get in little smaller places and really work on it. So that's the first thing I do. I get as much dust and dirt out of it as I can. Then I start cleaning. Oh, all my cleaning supplies are gone. Troy, can you bring me all those cleaning supplies? I'll talk about something else while you get here. We had it all out because I had cleaned her up, and then my husband was actually sewing on this, and so we had put some of the stuff away. So I will talk about further cleaning supplies. You want to have a lot of Q-tips on hand for cleaning. You can come in. Thanks, sweetheart. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing I go with these old machines with is Gojo. This is the original formula hand cream. This does not have pumice in it. I cannot tell you enough that you do not want to buy a Gojo or any cleaner with pumice. If you do that, you're going to be scratching the surface of your machine, okay? And that could damage it, and it could devalue it. Many old machines, Singer and other brands, have beautiful decals. The 201 doesn't have beautiful decals. It doesn't need them. She works and sews so beautifully, it doesn't matter if she has beautiful decals. So I will go in with a cotton round. These are the same ones I use to remove my eye makeup. And you're like, well, why would you buy premium cotton rounds just to throw away? Well, for the same reason I use these to remove my eye makeup. These don't have a bunch of lint, you know, that gets everywhere, stuck in my eyelashes. I don't want lint stuck in her parts either. I want to clean her up and not leave a mess behind to clean up. So I'll just, sometimes I'll dig my hand in the Gojo and just slather it all over her. And then I'll go back with cotton pads, with Q-tips, with paper towels. This is the kind of fabric-y paper towel. It's not really linty. I don't know what brand it is. And then also, I like flannel. And I have scissors here, and I'll cut pieces of flannel. This is really nice, soft flannel, and it's been washed, so it's not quite as linty. And I might cut pieces of flannel off and clean with that. So that takes a long time, you guys. I'm not going to lie. I will clean, the first cleaning of a machine will take, I'll spend about an hour on her, cleaning her up. After that, like I've already spent about an hour cleaning her up. And if I can even show you, if I were to take one of these pads and dip it in the Gojo, see, it just has Gojo on it, and wipe on her for a little while. Oh, I got her cleaner than I thought. See, there's a little bit of yellowing. This is actually much better than I thought. I've had machines in the past where I went back a week later and I could still get almost as much dirt as I did originally. And that happened over and over and over again for, you know, a month or two. See, I'm still getting plenty of dirt off of her. She was made in 1947. She could have been in someone's porch, garage, barn. You know, you just don't know where. Even in someone's house. I bought a machine once and it was inside someone's house, but they were a smoker. The whole house was, well, it was indescribable, truthfully. I can't even describe to you how full of nicotine it was. You could see like where the pictures had been removed from the wall and the walls were brown and the behind the picture frame was less brown. But so they just take a lot of cleaning. So then, after I have done that, once you feel like you have the machine completely clean, you can wax them. This Meguiar's cleaner wax is considered safe among the vintage sewing machine group. to clean your machines. You never ever want to approach a sewing machine, a vintage sewing machine, with 409 or Dawn or any harsh abrasive, ever. If I don't show it to you today, you probably should not use it on your machine until you know what you're doing. If you don't have the Gojo, but you do have baby oil, this is safe for the finish. You would do the same thing. You would squirt this onto a cotton pad or some flannel or whatever, and you would just wipe it all over the machine. I like to use the flannel for the end to kind of get the residue off, but common baby oil will not hurt your machines. It will not remove the decals. It will not mess with the varnish or the finish or anything. So those are the only things aside from sewing machine oil that I would clean a machine with. I would never clean a machine with these two sewing machine oils because these are expensive. But if you want to just go buy some Singer sewing machine oil from Joann's, squirt that onto your cotton pad and clean her with that, you can do that. That is safe. It will not hurt your machine. I don't use my sewing machine oil for that because these are like $10. Okay, this is 2 ounces. This was probably $20 or close to it for 4 ounces. But we have a lot of vintage sewing machines, and so we use that. Why would you use something that expensive when you can use this or the Gojo, which costs what, $5 or $6? I don't know. So let's take a look at these two oils. These are the only two oils you should be using on your vintage machine. This is Tri-Flow. This is almost empty. And this is Blue Creeper sewing machine oil. I bought both of these online. I don't know if you can get them in my town. They don't carry these at Joann's or Hobby Lobby. So I don't think my city, and I live in a city, I don't think it's big enough to carry these. So I have just ordered them online. And so Tri-Flow, and this is not just sewing machine oil though. So this one you might be able to find. Lowe's? You can get this at Lowe's, my husband says. And this is sewing machine oil, but I do believe Blue Creeper you can buy elsewhere, but I don't know if you can buy the sewing machine oil. These are useful for a lot of things, getting stuff unstuck and for oiling. So, one thing you need to know, if you get one of these black machines, you have a thirsty machine on your hand. Just get on your computer and figure out what kind of machine it is, and then find the manual. That's what I do. I just find the manual, and then I find the oiling diagram, and I just start to oil her. And they take oil all over. Here, 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 here. Over here. There's an oil spout here. There's 2 grease cups here. When you put her back, these 2 grease cups have to be cleaned and then refilled about once a year. This is grease from the Featherweight shop. It's special grease. You can't just put anything in them. I mean, if you love them and you want them to be happy and healthy, then, you know, treat them right and they will treat you right. And so this is, and this syringe was probably $10, but it's very specifically designed for these old machines. And when this runs out, and you just take, it just takes a little bit, like, there's not even a teaspoon in these grease cups. So maybe combined, I used 1 teaspoon of this grease for this machine, and I do that once a year. And I have other machines that take this as well on their gears, and it's worth the price. Anything that you find from the Featherweight shop, it's called the Singer Featherweight shop, is going to be safe for your old machines. They only sell the best of everything. So you can see underneath here, this, I've got my pile over here. I would take my brushes, starting with that biggest one. First I would vacuum under here and all under here in the case, and then I would take my brushes from biggest to smallest and oil and brush all under here, and then clean and then oil all under here. Okay, so It says in the 201 manual that if you've spent the whole day sewing that you should oil her up. This is completely different from new machines. My newest machine, my brother, it doesn't have any place to oil. There's not an oil guide in the book. They're sealed, and they kind of have manufactured obsolescence. This machine is from 1947. It is 71 years old. I don't think any of us are kidding ourselves that our modern machines are going to last 71 years. They're plastic. They have plastic gears. They're not going to last 71 years. This machine has more punching power than any new machine that is not industrial that is out right now. This machine can sew through layers of leather and denim. It has incredible torque, incredible torque. There's virtually nothing that you can throw at her that she won't sew through. And so she does sew. She sews beautifully. She makes a perfect stitch. And I didn't have to buy a single part for her, not one. Oh, she must not be plugged in. Oh, there she is. So I did not have to buy a single part for her. She has a drop-in bobbin, which I love. She takes the class 66 bobbin, which are readily available. And so I haven't sewn anything on her yet, but my husband sewed. He did some quilting on her yesterday, and he really liked her. And I'm excited to get to sewing on her. So what else do I have in my sewing machine repair kit? I always keep a bowl. It's really great if you have a nice Pyrex bowl for coolness factor. I'm kidding. What would be ideal is if you had one of those little mechanics trays that has the magnetic bottom. I've always meant to stop at an auto store and pick one of those up, but I just never have. You want this because you're going to be taking these little things, some of these things off of here, and you want to be able to throw all of your little parts in a place where they aren't going to get misplaced if you're taking things apart. And so you don't want to lose anything. Some of these screws are absolutely minuscule, and if you lose one, you're going to have to figure out what it is, and it's going to be hard to explain where it came from. And unless you have a sewing machine guy like I do, my sewing machine guy was he's retired, sort of. I still go get stuff from him. My husband and I went and got stuff from him just a couple of days ago. He was a Singer repairman for 53 years, so he knows everything. So what do I have in my little kit here? A variety of small screwdrivers, various lengths, because sometimes it's hard to get into a spot on this sewing machine. I have a pair of needle nose pliers. I have a couple of toothbrushes. I have these beautiful tweezers. These are cutter bee tweezers. If you're a crafter, you'll know you can get these at Hobby Lobby or Joann. They're fantastic. I need to buy myself another pair. These are probably 15 years old. I love them. And if I need them over at my craft desk, I will come and find this case and get them out. That's how much I love them. So I do need to get another pair. And then I have a couple of plastic things in here. This is a plastic knife. This is a plastic emery board. I don't have this in here for the emery board. I have it in here for the little plastic pokies because I don't want to scratch my machine. So if there's some gunk on there, masking tape residue or whatever, I want to scratch it. First of all, I will lay down some sewing machine oil. I would never go scratching on a machine. And then I will very softly and very gently maybe scrape with one of these scrapers. But that's pretty much it. I was lucky. This machine required no parts, and she sews beautifully. And so the cost I have in this machine is actually $35. The one I bought, the one I bought just a few weeks ago, that one is at $102 right now. But that is a highly sought after machine, and just like this one, and it is worth $102. Besides, my husband and I know that we love that machine because we already have one. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments, or if you ever want to know about a specific machine, send me a message or something, and I can look at the picture. What I would recommend, if you're going for any of these really old, timey looking ones, you're going to be okay as long as it has all of its parts. If you have an opportunity to sew with it before you pick it up, that would be ideal. But really, their cleaning and maintenance is really easy. The other kinds of machines that I really do love are all the Japanese machines from the 50s and 60s. And then Kenmore's, generally anything from the 60s and 50s. And Kenmore probably made some good machines up into the 70s. But the 1970s, you guys, is when they started putting plastic gears in. And so what you need to look for is a complete and all metal machine. See if she weighs a ton. And if she does, then she'll probably be good for you. And I'm going to introduce you to my collection of Japanese machines as well. Those are the ones that look like 1950s hot rod cars. They're just all chromey and everything. And those are my favorites. Those are my favorites to collect. But this one, the sewing can't be beat. So again, if you have any questions, just let me know. I'd be happy to help you out. I really do recommend vintage sewing machines. For the month of July, I've done all of my sewing on a 50-year-old machine. The only time I get off that machine is if I need to do like a buttonhole or if I'm sewing a knit. And I just got a zigzagger that fits that machine, so I'm actually going to try to sew some things, and I have buttonholers that fit that machine. I just haven't figured out how to use them yet. But I hope that you join me in my love of vintage sewing machines. They're really wonderful, and they're really strong, and they will last you for, this machine will probably last another 71 years. Have a fantastic day, and thanks for watching.